On tonight's video, we've got some heavy hitters. Hello all, and welcome back to Lily Bees. On tonight's episode, we're rounding out our first round matchups. We're now at the lower right portion or quadrant of the bracket, and I'm actually going to start out of order. We're going to start at the very lower right and then work our way up because we've got an exciting matchup to kind of finish things up for this portion of the tournament. So starting at the very lower right, we have tonight Wild Turkey Rare Breed versus Maker's 46 Cask Strength. So let me pull these two over here, and I'll go ahead and give you some specifics on each of these bottles. So this is Wild Turkey Rare Breed Barrel Proof. This is a 116.8 proof bottle. Not a whole lot of information on the bottle. It's actually surprisingly simple and lacking in information. Distilled and bottled by Wild Turkey, number 4 char, and that's basically all you get. So not a lot of info there, but one of my favorites, and a favorite of many. Checking out the other bottle, we have the limited edition Maker's Mark 46 Cask Strength. This is 110.3 proof. Again, not a lot of information. It kind of talks about how 46 is made, and that is their French oak stave finished offering, or stave profile they call it. But this is the barrel strength edition, so we essentially have two barrel strength bottles against each other with a few differences in there. So let's go ahead and get our first smell here. This is the non-taped glass to start with. Very pleasant, sweet in aroma. I hate to say it, but it's like a light caramel. It's kind of what I get, as if you were making like a caramel sauce or a caramel sundae or something like that, that kind of caramel. Let's get a taste here. Very nice. So there's a darkness kind of underneath that caramel, but not like a chalky, overwhelming, oaky sort of flavor that we've had before in other bottles. This one fits underneath that very nicely. You can definitely taste the proof, but it's not offensive. Okay, I'm going to save a little bit to come back to. But I like that one. Nothing stands out in a bad way. Now this one, to be honest with you, the first scent that came to mind was nail polish remover, which to me means I'm getting a lot of alcohol almost evaporating off the glass. Let's give it a taste to see if that'll go away. So this one definitely has that in-your-face alcohol punch, where this one did not, in my opinion. But we'll revisit that. For some reason, I can't get over that aroma. Coming into this episode, I know that I like both of these bottles, so it's going to be really interesting to see why that's all I'm smelling. Let's give it another taste here. Okay, second sip, much better. I have a guess at what it is. I don't want to say yet. It definitely tastes proofier, but surprisingly is a little bit thin compared to this glass. This is the taped glass now. It's I want to say nuttier, maybe. It's just a little bit more dry, less of the sweet, caramely, sugary notes of this one. Let's give each one more taste before we move on. Back to this right away, again, that sugary caramel. Very good. And back to the taped glass. Boy, it's tough. I feel like there's more here. If you were to go back to this again and again, it's almost a little bit different every time. And this one's more consistent to me. So typically I would say I like this one better because it's going to be a different experience on different days. But for today, the winner's going to be the non-taped glass. Okay, matchup number 2 of the night, and the final matchup of round 1. Possibly the most anticipated by some. I knew right away when I put these two together, making the bracket and setting up the tournament, this was highly anticipated for me, and so this will be a good one. We have one a little bit more than the other, but two heavy-hitting, highly allocated bottles here. The Henry McKenna 10-year single barrel and the Blantons single barrel. So let's look at some specifics for each of these bottles. Henry McKenna is 10 years old, bottled in bond, and if you've watched the What's on the Label episode, you know that means this is at least 4 years old. It's bottled at exactly 100 proof. Not a lot else available. It's a Heaven Hill product. And there's some specifics about the awards that it's won and things like that. Taking a look at Blantons. This is a single barrel product once again, 93 proof. So we're a little bit lower in proof there, but trying to be close. This is a Buffalo Trace product, Kentucky Straight Bourbon, and not a lot else. This is the finest bourbon in the world, so we'll see if that holds up. Okay, I should mention, if you're just tuning in, a few just quick things. So the glasses obviously don't represent what bottle they're in front of. They might, but it's totally random. I have the non-taped and the taped glass that I'll refer to as each one if you're following along. And I've had water, rinsed the glasses, and chips or crackers or whatever in between. So it's a totally fresh setup here. Starting with the taped glass. This has a pleasant, lower proof nose, I would say, than the last round. So there's nothing that's like nail polish remover or anything. Kind of a fruity. I'm not getting that caramel, vanilla, oak classic nose, but almost a fruity citrus. Let's take a taste. Really nice. No burn or anything like that. And to me, there's two types of burn that you're going to get. Either an alcohol burn or a rye spice that's kind of that spicy, hot feeling. It doesn't have either one of those. Very easy drinking. Let's get one more sip here. Yeah, that one's just very well-rounded, straight across. Nothing sticks out. But easy drinking would be my main description there. Moving on to the non-taped glass. This one does have that kind of less intensity, but it does have to me that I don't want to say nail polish remover in a bad way, but that maybe ethanol, acetone type fume. And then a little bit of a dark, woody sort of a smell down there. Okay, that one to me is a little more complex. This maybe was a touch watered down, which is why I find that a lot in lower proof. I hope I'm right about that. But regardless, I find that a lot in lower proof offerings where in a lot of cases they're literally watering it down to reach that, or proofing it down. And to me, sometimes that becomes watery. Not that I don't like any low proof bottles, but to me, this versus this one is a little bit watery. This one just packs a little bit more punch, which I like. There's just a touch more of a viscosity to it. But it does have that dark, oaky, smoky type of a taste to it, which I'm less fond of. Coming back to this one, now after having that, it really has brightened up. It's kind of in that floral citrusy type space. It's a tough one. I feel like a lot of people would prefer this glass and this bottle because it's just a little bit more interesting. But I think this one would check more boxes. This one is well-rounded. It has a pleasant aroma. It's very smooth and easy drinking. It's just a little bit low in proof for me, but these are both low-ish proof items. So I think the winner today is going to be the taped glass. So I'm really excited to see. Okay, so taking a look at the results, and I think for the most part I've used my best picks. This is kind of my main bracket for an example in the video. My winners, or who I thought would win, I should say. I thought Blantons would win, and I thought Rare Breed would win today. But I'm excited to find out. So, the winner of the first round was the non-taped glass, which was...
The Makers.
The Makers! Wow. Okay, and I forgot to give my guesses, which doesn't really matter. Too late now, but I would have guessed that Makers did win. If you watch the tape back, you can see some of the descriptives that I give of that. So I'm not disappointed. I like both of them. I still do, and I've mentioned that before. But the winner of the first matchup is Makers 46. Okay, second matchup. Tonight, I wanted Blantons in this bracket. The winner I had was the taped glass, which was...
Did you want to guess which one you thought would win?
Oh, my guess is that Blantons did win because I thought it was a little bit lighter and lower in proof, and I thought that the non-winning glass was darker, higher proof, smoky oaky, which I commonly get from McKenna.
So the taped glass was Blantons, so Blantons won.
Okay, so we are 1 for 2 on tonight's guesses. Again, the winners are Blantons and Makers. So I wanted to close out the video by taking a look at kind of where we're at, who the winners were from round 1, and what's to come in round 2. Okay, so you'll have to let me know in the comments down below. I should have this all correct, but I haven't gone back and watched the tape on everything, so if I'm wrong on something, make sure to let me know. And then what I'll try and do is put a photo up once again of kind of where we stand. I have a blank bracket that I can fill in with strictly the winners, so you can fill out your bracket if you haven't yet, or correct your bracket. Okay, so starting at the top left with our first ever matchup, we had Baker's 7 versus Buffalo Trace. My pick there was Baker's, but the winner was actually Buffalo Trace. Moving down from that, Rittenhouse versus 101 Rye. The winner there was Wild Turkey 101 Rye. Next down, Old Bardstown Estate from Willett versus Michter's Sour Mash. My pick was Michter's, but the Willett Old Bardstown Estate won down there. And then on the bottom of the left half, we had our Willett 4-Year Rye versus our Redwood Lost Monarch Rye Bourbon Blend. The winner there was the Willett 4-Year. Moving over to the top right of the bracket, Makers versus Repeal Batch. This was on last week's episode. The winner there was our Jim Beam Repeal Batch. Moving down, Cedar Ridge Port Cask Rye versus Cedar Ridge No. 9 Red Cask. Winner there, Cedar Ridge Port Cask Rye. And finally, to today's matchups and winners, Blantons versus McKenna 10. Of course, the winner was Blantons. And Rare Breed, Wild Turkey Rare Breed versus Makers 46 Cask Strength. I picked Rare Breed, but our winner was the Makers 46 Cask Strength. So, obviously those matchups are to come. We're going to have Buffalo Trace versus Wild Turkey 101 Rye. That'll be interesting because that will be a kind of lower proof, 90 proof bourbon, classic bourbon, versus a 101 proof rye in about the same price range. Then, looking down, we're going to have Willett versus Willett, but will it matter because one of them is twice the price? We're going to have Old Bardstown Estate, which is a bourbon, versus our Willett Rye once again. So bourbon rye, this will be interesting. Moving over to the right half of the bracket, the Jim Beam Repeal will take on the Cedar Ridge Port Cask Rye, another bourbon and rye matchup in about a half price range. We've got about a $20 bottle versus a $55 bottle. So that's going to be interesting. And then finally, Blantons versus our Makers 46 Cask Strength. That's a straight bourbon matchup. And actually similar in price, somewhere around the upper $50, $60 range. So this will be interesting. I will put up a photo of where the bracket stands currently. Make sure to like and subscribe as always if you haven't already. And I look forward to seeing you on the next video.